What's going on, good people of the internet? It's time for OnComicsRounds.com's flagship podcast, Panel to Panel, where a bunch of folks shoot the breeze and talk about comic books and such. And I have missed saying that because we are back once again, somewhere in the episode 50 territory, where we are talking about the movie that we thought would never show up. What am I talking about, folks? I'm talking about Zack Snyder's Justice League, a thing that we thought we would never get. Thank you to Warner Media and WB for sending us a review copy for that. I was able to get our review out on time the day of embargo lifting. That was an amazing opportunity, and we thank them for that. But now, Mary has seen it, Travis has seen it. We all three, the Trinity, has reunited to talk about this movie that we thought we would never get to see. So, don't forget, folks, that you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, YouTube, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever the hell you want to listen to a podcast, you can listen to us, except for SoundCloud. We don't support SoundCloud. So make sure you check us out on those platforms. You can follow us on Twitter at PTP_podcast, or you can follow the website on Comics Ground on Twitter and Instagram at OnComicsGround. And you can check out the website on -comics-ground.com for all the latest reviews, opinion pieces, everything that you could possibly imagine we have there. And we will be pumping out brand new content now that we are back up and running, and we get excited for that. My name is James Portis. To my left, we have the man who is busting his ass and apparently is building Gundams to take over the Earth. How are you doing today, Travis Tucker?
I'm doing pretty good. I finished that Gundam today, and now I'm working on a settlement in Valheim. It seems like everything I like to do is some sort of work for some reason. Hashtag Ray Fisher was right. I just want to start with that.
Yes. We will talk about that.
Yeah, fuck yes, we will. But yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
All right, and then to my right, we have the woman who was probably horny off her ass for that amazing re-edited Amazon scene. Mary, how you doing today?
It was a very nice scene. It was, yeah. Hey, don't judge me.
I'm not judging you. Like it was a very nice scene. Like the minute, and I will like that was the moment when the movie was playing. I knew Joss Whedon had fucked up because there's that moment where they all yell, "We have no fear." I was like, yes, this is the signal that Joss Whedon fucked up.
See, and then I feel like there are so many in this whole film.
Oh, there's so many. And it's like, I'm so thankful. And the thing is, I legitimately was so negative against this movie. I was even like, I even talked about it before on this show. This is like literal podcast. I talked about how I was not interested in seeing this movie because of the fact of the community that was behind it. That there was such a toxicity within this community. And even Zack Snyder's gone on record, and ironically enough, pissed off Ethan Van Sciver this week, fuck you, where apparently he came out and said, fuck all the toxic motherfuckers that were wanting this movie to be a thing. But
yeah, I know Geeks and Gamers had a fucking meltdown.
Yeah, I saw that shit. And it's like, that entire situation, that was the reason why I didn't want to see this movie. Hell, fucking Harley Quinn, the animated series, made fun of those kind of guys. Like, that was the reason why I didn't want to see this movie come to fruition, was because of the toxicity in the community. So, to see it come out, it left me conflicted, and I went into this movie, into the screener, so conflicted and pessimistic that when that specific scene of the Amazons happened, I was like, all right, let's see what goes down, because you gave me a reason to like this movie. You put such a more focus on them instead of just like there's a shot of the dog pile that they sort of like left in of Steppenwolf reaching for the mother box in the Whedon cut. Now we understand why there's a fuck ton of Amazons on him, because they dogpiled his ass and they wanted to make sure he didn't get out. And there's the shot.
One hell of a contingency plan.
Right? And like they fucking like in the Whedon cut, I even like pulled it up after I finished the screener. I pulled up the Whedon cut on my Blu-ray, and there's that shot of Steppenwolf in the Whedon cut where he tears through the wall in like such a rushed CGI moment. Versus here, they fucking buried his ass with all those women. And I was like, damn.
And I think that's I think a point that I kind of want to get off my chest in the beginning is the fact that Steppenwolf was much more effective as a villain in this film.
Yes. Hell to the yes.
Because removing Darkseid from the plot entirely, it ultimately removed Steppenwolf's motivation.
Yep.
And it's the whole, the mother, you will love me, you will all love me thing. It was really weird. And like, it was creepy, but awkward creepy, if that.
Do you know what it was? If I may, it was very Freudian of Whedon.
Yes, yes. It very much exposed Whedon's mommy issues, because there's that moment where like he's like speaking to a mother figure that's like the embodiment of the mother boxes, and I'm like, who are you talking to? Like, where is Darkseid? And then what was so much more telling to me was there's the flashback scene. And how you can tell Whedon told somebody to copy, like to take the scissors and cut out Darkseid and put Steppenwolf in. And I'm like, what did you do? Like, you ruined that entire fucking flashback scene, cut it to shreds, fucking took out Sexy Zeus, because I was offended by that, because we need more Sexy Zeus.
No, we do not.
Hey, man, if Mary gets to be horny, I get to be horny too, because Sexy Zeus was great. Like that was him and younger Ares, they can get it, because that was fucking glorious. But like, just in general, like that entire fucking fight scene, there was a Green Lantern more shown in that thing, and he looked like he was Tomar Ray's relative. I was like, yo, what the fuck? And it was just, and then apparently this just came out that like Warner Media stopped Zack from putting in Jon Stewart into the Snyder Cut. And I was like, what? Like, there was so much potential that was cut from this thing because of Whedon, or even in general because of Warner Brothers, and I'm just like,
bruh. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that I think Steppenwolf's heightened effectiveness, because he actually has a motivation, it actually ended up raising the stakes, because in the Whedon cut of the film, both the scenes on Themyscira and the scenes in Atlantis, they're kind of laughable.
Yeah, oh my god, yes.
The Amazons and the Atlantean Guard, they look damn near incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
But giving Steppenwolf an honest to god motivation other than revenge, having him trying to get back in Darkseid's good graces by throwing everything he has trying to find these mother boxes, and it heightens the tension in those scenes. You see a lot more hesitation from Hippolyta, because I thought it kind of strange that Hippolyta is just like, all right, bye bitches, have fun. And, she takes the box and goes. But we see a lot more emotional conflict with Hippolyta. Like, the Amazons, they will fight to the last to carry out their duty or to protect something. And so, no, any of the Amazons on that island would have given their lives to keep Steppenwolf away from that mother box. But Hippolyta is not without compassion. So when she kneels down and the other Amazon says, honor us, like, look, bitch, we're going to go down, but, honor us as best you can. And, the fact that without a second thought, it's when she says, seal it, and you have those delightful big bitches with the hammers.
Oh my god, the buff women holding up the stone wall.
Uh-huh.
And like they made that one moment more justified because in the Whedon cut, she doesn't say anything to them. They just pick it up because they have to.
Yeah.
Or
Right. They just like knew that everything was coming down in the Whedon cut. It was really weird.
The best part about that scene where they're holding up the wall is that, and this is in the behind the scenes for the Blu-ray of the Whedon cut, is that those two women are actually holding up a weighted green screen door.
Wow.
So like it's so that way you can see the muscle definition pop, and I think we saw a lot more of that in the Snyder cut.
Yeah, and like even in that scene, there's a moment where like once they're out of the building and Steppenwolf cuts the wall, fucking he just kind of like just straight jumps to the next scene of him tackling Hippolyta. Hippolyta just fucking teleports. She just goes like from one spot to the next and then has to shoot at him. And it's like, how did you what? Like there's like she has no emotional like struggle of seeing the Amazon sacrifice themselves versus here you see her struggle with the fact that they just all fell to their deaths defending the island, and I was like, damn.
And like I said, so I think that emotional struggle, and it makes that scene of where she was going to try to take on Steppenwolf, but that Amazon was pinned under the horse, and she's like, oh, wait a minute, gotta go help her. It makes more sense that, you know, Hippolyta couldn't save the ones in the chamber, but she can try to save this one. And, you know, Hippolyta, like Diana, does not sacrifice easily. Now, there was a lot of death in the Snyder cut. Like, oh my god, so much death. And
tons of violence.
Where I don't think, and sorry, I'm going to go into a lady issue here, where I don't think Snyder was as openly lecherous as Whedon was, because Whedon, it was just fucking gross. But Zack Snyder kind of, if they weren't, you know, super badass, I'm gonna kill you, it was, oh god, I'm so helpless, someone save me. And I think we really need to look at that in the scenes with the Amazons and Wonder Woman, and particularly Lois Lane and Iris West.
Oh my god, that Iris scene was so fucking cringy.
It was just like I'm gonna, because you know, and because you know, I had tweeted some stuff after I watched it, and I said it was nice to see these women not be creeped on, and somebody pointed out the Iris scene, and I'm like, shit, I didn't even think about that. That's not okay.
Yeah, no, like she can notice nothing about this shit, and just kind of just stared at her.
That was a little weird.
The whole thing.
Just a little weird. I mean,
if
like,
I didn't like Ezra Miller's Flash before, I like him a little more now.
Yeah.
But my dislikes are now for completely different reasons.
Yeah. And like, because before I was like, yo, just please change your name to Wally West because you're such a like a fucking Michael Rosenbaum from the JLA TV show copy. Like, please. And like that's literally all I kept thinking in the Whedon cut. Now it's more so you're just a bit of a perv, and it's kind of weird. Like, I need you to calm down. Granted, the scene with him running at the end, bro, that was some next level shit.
Oh, where he outruns. Shit was badass.
Yeah, that's what made me like him as a character again. Now, granted, there's two things that I will like. This is the only credence I'm gonna give Whedon. The rest of this shit he can burn for, because I'm gonna have to rant about Cyborg in a minute. But like, The two things I will give Whedon was the end credit scene with Superman and Flash was some of the most genuine, like, Silver Age comic shit I've ever seen. And I was a little bit bummed they took that out. And I was kind of sad that was a Whedon scene rather than a Snyder scene, because it felt really genuine and something that would happen. And then the other thing was, while I talked about this in my review a little bit, granted Snyder's Return of Superman feels more organic to his vision. I kind of preferred what Whedon did in the reshoots with the shitty mustache at the end, where Superman just kind of shows up and feels very like Silver Age, very like camaraderie, and like he inspired, like right? And like he inspires Cyborg
justice.
Yeah, and like he inspires Cyborg and helps him with the boxes, versus in the Snyder cut he just sort of like yeets them aside for him, and I'm like, Where's the inspiring look into Ray Fisher's eyes? Like, that was something I really appreciated about that version. Granted, here in the Snyder Cut, he fucking rips Steppenwolf a fucking new one, and it was great. Like, that was glorious. You just beat his ass. I love that shit. Hell, like fucking Wonder Woman cleaving Steppenwolf's head off and fucking Aquaman stabbing him through the chest. That was glorious. But, like, I really did kind of enjoy seeing a little bit of Silver Age Superman from Whedon. And it kind of sucks because I hate Joss Whedon as a person. So it's just like, that little bit Whedon did gave me the Superman I had always wanted to see from Henry Cavill. And I'm sad. But at the same time, I appreciate everything that Warner Brothers did for Snyder, giving him the chance to put his vision forth the way he wanted to. And I'm gonna be the person to say it. This is probably the best not Joss Whedon, Jesus Christ, the best Zack Snyder thing I've ever fucking seen. This is like, I'm gonna be that guy.
Dawn of the Dead exists. Thank you very much.
Dawn of the Dead exists, but Dawn of the Dead exists though. But like, in terms of a labor of love, in terms of a story, I think this hits different. Like, 300 is great, Dawn of the Dead is great, but like, this hits different.
I mean, I think it's also important. I have one more lady point I'm going to want to make here in a minute. Something I think that needs to be pointed out, and this isn't to discredit anything, but the Snyder Cut was made with the benefit of hindsight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because we don't know how much was completely original, because Warner Media gave Snyder about $70 million to finish it. And I'm not interested in arbitrary conversations of it was always finished or haha, it was never finished. Like, shut up, I don't care. But, there were definitely things that were added. And I feel like there was a lot that was potentially improved on in hindsight. Think back to the flashback sequence with the Green Lantern costume. Don't tell me that wasn't something that was done with hindsight. Like, oh, okay, maybe this is the costume from the Whedon Cut was how it was storyboarded and how it was done here. And, it's a lot more polished. There are things that are far more polished.
Don't forget the whole we live in a society bullshit.
Victoria showed me something, and somebody pointed out that they thought it was hilarious that they used that as a trailer spot, but nowhere was it in the film.
Yeah, that's true. They cut that part.
And the other lady point that I want to make, and I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who was just absolutely heartbroken by the film. And Zack Snyder, this is something that he has gotten progressively worse about over the years, and this does exist in almost all of his movies, is using dead women as man pain. And I know the word man pain can be very funny, but it's a legitimate trope, and it's everything from TVs to movies to comic books. I mean, using dead women as man pain is a staple of like 80s and 90s action films. That then, your male protagonist is rallied for that one final thing. In the 80s, it was often sexual assault. And, it heightens that I wasn't able to protect the women no matter how capable they were. Because in the nightmare sequence, we see dead Diana. And the Amazons have clearly given up because, here comes the, parademons and shit to come stomp all over the Amazons. That very gross line about Harley Quinn in the end. Like, I would have told you Jeff Johns wrote that line. Of, when I held Harley Quinn as she was dying, blah. And, like, Batman wasn't saying that as a, hey, I'm gonna, I held Harley while she died, and I will kill you for her. It was Joker teased him about Robin, so Batman threw Harley in his face. And
yeah,
that's Batman wouldn't do that. He would be like, hey, I'm gonna kill you for this shit you said about my children, and oh, by the way, I'm gonna kill you again because I held Harley Quinn while she died.
See, and the problem with that is it all sounds really weird because Bruce Wayne's not exactly a murderer.
Well, yeah.
That's what bugged me the most about that scene was the fact that here's the thing. we can sit here and praise Bruce Greenwood for his amazing speech at the end of Under the Red Hood till the cows come home, but we've proven time and time again that every multimedia version of Bruce Wayne is gonna be a fucking killer, whether you would like it or not. We all ran over people with the Bat Tank in Arkham Knight. Fucking Michael Keaton killed bitches. Fucking Ben Affleck killed bitches.
I'm sorry. In any adapted property where Batman does not kill, I refuse to believe people do not die of bat-related injuries.
Right? It's just like everybody. Like I'm gonna set the record straight. If any person that listens to the show thinks that Batman doesn't kill people, fucking get over it. Like at this point, the original fucking version used a gun.
I think where for me that argument falls is that I think there's a difference between killing and murder.
Yes.
Killing is an act of survival. My dad ended up killing people in the military because, it was a them or him situation. I'm not advocating for it. I'm using that as an example that, so this was a thing that he did to preserve his survival because it was a surprise attack. And, versus premeditated murder. I think that realistically speaking, there would be situations outside of a perfect comic book universe where Batman can use like his X-ray bat vision to see every hairline fracture that someone has. There would be accidental deaths. And I think it was I'm losing my train of thought here. But I think to me that's where it goes is that, and in the comic books, we have seen Batman be the cause of accidental deaths. And this is even beyond the Golden Age because Golden Age Batman, pre-1940. So we're looking at that very limited time window in 1939 and early 1940 where Batman shoots a vampire and I love it.
Oh my god.
But he's Batman was originally introduced as a very clear ripoff of the Shadow, who was a gun-toting vigilante, even to this day still is.
That's why the Scott Snyder team-ups with Dynamite before Dynamite went to crap of the Shadow and Batman are fucking amazing.
It's a meme. And, Batman was a ripoff. And at the time, everyone knew that because that just was the market at the time. That's why you have Aquaman and Namor, Man-Thing and Swamp Thing. So, that's why you have all of these characters that are very similar from specific time periods. It's just because it's the way that the market works.
Mm-hmm.
But... so that is what that Golden Age time slot played in. And, I like to point it out because Batman has never killed anyone ever is a belief that I do like to dispel because I don't think we shouldn't look at the history of comic book characters. So I point out the particularly murderous origins of Batman within the Golden Age. Because, just because it was the 1940s doesn't mean that that's not relevant superhero history. Every major superhero from every major comic book publisher at the time used very strong racist language during World War II against the Japanese. We can't discredit that. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Captain America, all of these Paragon heroes used this kind of racist language and ideology.
They did, yeah. The war bond thing used to be so explicit of Captain America saying that the Asian people needed to pay for their crimes. It used to be really freaking bad.
So, using that to kind of recontextualize the whole history of Batman thing is that, like I said, we haven't seen Batman explicitly murder anyone outside of, super noir trendy shit. So,
I think the difference here in particular is it's not hitting some random asshole with the Batmobile playing Arkham Knight or someone bashing or Batman bashing someone's head into a coma. It's particularly him going up to the Joker, the guy he notoriously says, "I won't fucking kill you," and going, "I'm gonna fucking kill you."
I mean, at that point, though, in an apocalyptic setting, I feel like Bruce was kind of pushed to that point where he was like, bro, I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to murder you when this is over.
But I almost feel like that kneecaps Snyder's own narrative. Because in Batman vs. Superman at the end of the day, it's a Batman movie. And we all know that. It's part weird media political thriller and part Batman movie. It is Batman responding to the events of Man of Steel, which conceptually is a really cool idea. But, at that point, he's gotten, quote unquote, the line in the Ultimate Edition that Batman, quote, got mean. And he just starts killing people and branding people, and he has fallen so far of what he wanted. Robin, it's Dick Grayson, is the dead Robin.
Is it really?
It is Dick Grayson.
That's fucking wild.
It's Dick Grayson.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Snyder confirmed that ages ago that it's Dick Grayson.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
So Dick Grayson and or Jason Todd is dead. So, he has lost everything. And from what I understand, he has mentioned the fact that Carla Gugino was almost Catwoman. And she and Bruce and Selina had been married and divorced. Fun fact, Carla Gugino was actually the voice of the Superman ship in Snyder Cut. Because I'm like, why does she sound familiar? And sorry, I'm a huge fan of the first of all Spy Kids, and second of all of the Haunting of Netflix series.
I mean, it makes sense because Zack Snyder knows her from Sucker Punch, so it makes sense that he would bring her back for something like that.
But no, she was originally going to be, Selina as Bruce's ex-wife.
That would have been glorious because I love her.
So we see that downswing trend of Bruce has lost everything. And so he's, quote unquote, gotten mean. He has started killing and has blackened his soul almost, if you want to look at it in pseudo-poetic imagery. But then here comes Superman, who's totally not a Jesus metaphor. Zack Snyder is super subtle about that.
Jesus.
Totally Jesus. Not a Jesus metaphor.
Jesus.
But, so
Jesus.
then you have Superman coming onto the scene, and through the sacrifice in the fight with Doomsday, and then his need to bring him back. And, somebody points out that Batman doesn't kill anyone in Justice League.
Yup.
That he has moved beyond that because he saw what a hero actually was. And I say that conceptually within this context, not that I don't think Batman's a superhero. But so that was kind of the whole philosophical arc with Batman, was learning how to be a good guy again. And, we see the scene in the Snyder Cut where he has the Wonder Woman gauntlet. Like, that was really cool that he's looking at these two people and he's learning from them. And he's learning from this team that he's assembled. To have that weird thing in the nightmare sequence where he's all like, hey, Joker, I'ma kill you. Like, that kneecaps the philosophical, progression of Batman.
Just because the entire thing, like, nightmare scene in general.
Lost that growth in one line.
Pretty much, yeah. And what's crazy about that, that entire nightmare scene, it shouldn't have just been stapled to the end of the movie like it was a last draft add-in.
Zack Snyder doesn't know how to end a movie to save his life. Yeah. I mean, and I am a fan of Zack Snyder, and I have been for a very long time. Dawn of the Dead was my first introduction to him because I love zombie films, and I stuck with his career ever since. The ending of Sucker Punch, it holds a special place in the heart of people in my city because the bus that Vanessa Hudgens gets on in the end of the movie goes to my city. So we're all like, oh my God. But no, Zack Snyder doesn't know how to end a movie to save his life. He's what I like to call a wait a minute, one more thing director, that you just want to tack on one thing at the end. And then that one thing becomes 5 more things to tack on.
And what's crazy is that entire nightmare scene, I already know the perfect place you could have put that shit. You could have put that shit at the part where Barry outruns time. You could have stuck that shit right there. Or you could have put it when Cyborg fucks up. When Cyborg has that nightmare vision, you could have put that shit there, and then we could have moved the fuck on. It would have revealed Deathstroke a little bit early and killed the vibe, but it would have been such more great placement than what you did. And to swing back to the Batman issue, what shows the progression of Bruce as a character is we don't need to see him dick-sucking Superman to the point that him and Wonder Woman have a weird pseudo-relationship and then have it break up because of him wanting to resurrect Clark. Like, there's actually just him being a character in the ensemble versus him trying to, like, obsess over this team and obsess over bringing Clark back from the dead to the point that there's that little cutaway line where Diana shows up and he's like, thanks for coming. And he's like, I didn't do it for you, I did it for him. And it's like, we don't need that here. They're always united. That makes the entire movie so much more organic, is the fact that Snyder focused on the team rather than trying to divert different things. And if anything, and as Travis brought up before, Ray Fisher was right. And fucking the best development of this entire movie, and the reason why that Warner Media needs to shut the fuck up and cut Ray Fisher a check and tell Hamada to like apologize, is the wrongs that were done to Ray Fisher. Because
he got fucked over so hard in this movie. He went from like a side character, like in the Whedon cut, he shows up, he's like, yeah, I'm a freak of nature, but I'll help y'all. And that's kind of his whole fucking thing. And then in this one, like, they have the scene with the tape recorder. My favorite shit of the whole movie is when his father's explaining to him, like, what he's capable of. And they juxtapose that audio with shots of him trying it as it's being explained. Like, if there's any way to fast forward someone's character development and keep them a meaningful part of the story, that was it.
Exactly.
What the fuck was Whedon thinking when he was like, let's just have him show up in a hoodie. That's cool, right?
Right, and there's that moment where like I compared the two scenes with my Blu-ray and with the screener. I looked at the two different scenes of Diana and Cyborg, of like them meeting, and Diana wears the same outfit, she wears the same thing, and she pulls up the same Mercedes. But like
Gal Gadot recorded no new scenes for the Snyder Cut.
Shit.
So everything we have of Gal Gadot was originally shot footage.
So that means they just cut all the Ray Fisher redos.
And or was CGI.
Well, yeah.
Because her cutting off Steppenwolf's head, that was I think it was storyboarded in like pre-CGI, because before the Snyder Cut was confirmed to be a thing, Snyder revealed on his Instagram that it is Diana who kills Steppenwolf.
That's awesome.
But no, so we know for a fact that Gal Gadot shot no new scenes. So everything that was her that was added had been shot before.
Mm-hmm. And like, there's the shot of her and Victor. The audio for Gal plays out the same way. Everything she says is the same. But Whedon made Ray Fisher reshoot that entire scene in a hoodie for no reason, even though the scene had already been shot of him pulling up, fucking jetpacking in and talking to Diana, versus him walking out, the lights flickering, and he's in a hoodie. And I'm like, why did you do this? Why did you change that? You cut his entire character development in an entire scene and just ruined the entire thing. What made you do that? And like, they redid scenes of him in the hoodie in the apartment for no reason. You brought back Silas Stone's actor and had him do some bullshit, less character development scenes with Ray. And it's like, what are you doing? And like, the biggest thing for me that showed that Joss Whedon was a fucking idiot was the
whole movie.
Yes, but like the scene in the when they're going to save the people, because there's such a stark contrast of Cyborg's like going to save his dad. It was a knee-jerk decision, and you can tell the cuts that Whedon did to that scene, where he went in and fucking Windows Movie Maker and was like, cut this, change the audio here, because like because if you look at the two different ones, fucking Steppenwolf's over here like, oh, I can smell the mother box on you, versus here he's yelling at the dinner like, do you know anything? And I'm like, wow, you're a fucking idiot. And then there's like the different versions, and there was no need for Ezra Miller to get a pep talk from Ben Affleck in this version. There was no save one and you'll be fine. Like, no, we didn't need that. Ezra Miller hopped into fucking action because he knew what he needed to fucking do. There was no need for him to get a fucking anxiety pep talk from Bruce Wayne and then have no development the rest of the movie.
I'm not gonna lie though, I was fucking not disappointed. Something more intense than disappointed when the reason that he had to run through time was because he was like holding his wound going
like he's fucking Peter Griffin.
That fucking shit pissed me off so bad. I'm like, suck it up. You have the Speed Force. Just run or something. And then they're like, Barry, you fucked up. And then he just fixes it. I was like, okay, this is bullshit.
Like that entire fucking sewer scene was so different. And then there's that fucking that stupid titty scene was so obnoxious. And then like they change it, like you can tell that Whedon was a slick motherfucker because the easy little like movie maker changes he made where he cut out the version that Zack had already filmed and then put in his stupid little fan fiction of Ezra falling on the titties. And then we found out later on that Gal Gadot knew nothing about this. And I was like, what the actual fuck?
And everyone was just generally uncomfortable.
Because I remember Mary had told me about this, and I was so triggered on Gal's behalf. Did Mary die?
No, sorry, I had to readjust my microphone.
Oh, okay.
But it was
Garbaggio. That's what that was.
Yes.
It's one of those women who, you know, in my preteen and formative years and whatnot, I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer religiously. As much as I could, I watched Buffy a lot. And then as you get older, you kind of start to realize, hold up a minute. And, you know, it rapidly became one of those, okay, he's a little... And part of you that latched onto that character when you were so young wants to try and, you know, when you're like 14, you want to try and find ways around it, but you realize that you can't. And so it has just kind of cycled into one of these things. If I'm looking at this situation and I'm like, how the hell have I looked at any property this man has, you know, even been within 6 feet of and felt some kind of like, yeah, because I mean, millennial women, a lot of us loved Buffy. Like I was Buffy the Vampire Slayer for Halloween when I was like 11 or 12.
That's adorable.
Like, and it's just one of those how, and you know, going back and watching certain Buffy things as an adult, it's fucking disgusting. Like, and it's just, it makes me want to rip my hair out because when I was much younger, I fell for it. And it's just, you know, the way that he wraps up pseudo empowerment with sexuality, it makes my skin crawl. And, you know I'm not the only woman that had this experience. And, you know, because I've had friends who are women that didn't watch Buffy when they were younger or watch it when it was on, you know, if they're slightly older than I am. Going back and watching it now, they're kind of like, wow, this is gross. And I'm like...
You fucking watched this?
And it's just kind of like, you know, I was between the ages of like... Oh God, I watched a lot of things in the 90s that I shouldn't have. Yeah, I watched a lot of things in the 90s that I shouldn't have. But you know, so, and even then we had old VHS recordings of Buffy that I would watch a lot when I was like 12 or 13. And it's just
like, I feel so bad for y'all because you look to this man as like the savior who gave you guys this role model, and then you find out he's just this fucking horrible person. Like, especially now, after Ray Fisher said what he said, now you have people from Buffy coming out and confirming that Ray Fisher's justified in what he's saying. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with one person that he has this much bullshit coming out?
And the worst part is that Ray Fisher isn't even the first person to come forward and talk about issues with Joss Whedon. There were other Buffy cast members, several of them being stunt doubles, that came forward years ago and said, "No, the guy is insane." But this was coming off of the hype from Avengers.
Yup.
And around that, 2012, between like 2012 and 2015, Joss Whedon could do no wrong.
He couldn't be touched.
And, after the failure that was the cinematic cut of Justice League, because he bounced back from Age of Ultron fairly well. I mean, really the only people complaining about the movie were weirdly obsessed Ultron fans and women.
And no one really wanted to like justify their complaints, especially but then like his wife came out and was talking shit, and that started to raise eyebrows. And then Justice League happened, and it was like, oh, we have a problem. And it just got worse.
And I think a lot of that boils back to Joss Whedon creeping on women isn't new. And, we have all of the pieces now, and we're looking at, because, people from Buffy have been talking for years about how shitty of an environment that it was. And it was just kind of, Joss Whedon is creepy to women is just kind of like you know what, it happens, don't worry about it. But look, Buffy is such an empowered character. It makes up for it.
But it's like even fucking James Marsters came out and said the shit about how apparently like Whedon was pissed that Spike was popular, so now like he was abusing him on set for being popular. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, I mean, and it's in season 6 where Spike sexually assaults Buffy. And they still have this big whirlwind romance. Not to mention, Tara's death sparking the newest, wave of, the dead lesbian trope, which pre-existed Buffy, but had largely dropped off the radar. I'm sorry. I do not mean to turn this into women's problems with Joss Whedon.
No. Like, because I'm over here ranting too, because I'm pissed. Me and Travis are about to go the fuck in, because look at Ray Fisher. This man deserves a motherfucking Oscar for this movie. Like, I'm gonna be the one to fuck. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it because and someone put this on Twitter earlier. Fucking Ray Fisher does more with the black superhero here than damn it, I hate that he's dead because it sounds like I'm speaking ill on his name. Fucking, it sounds like Ray Fisher did more in this movie than Chadwick did in Black Panther. I'm gonna be the nigga to say it. Like,
see, the problem with that is as much as I like Cyborg's reimagining, I wouldn't even say a reimagining. His retelling. His retelling because Johns is the one that did it. Right. So Ray Fisher's like retelling of Cyborg was very good. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it, but there were a few moments where I felt like Fisher's acting was a little monotone. Like a little monotone. Like he could have had a little more emotion. Instead
are you talking about the thanks, Alfred? I'll take it from here. Are you talking about that?
Yeah, that there was a few others that I'd have to rewatch the movie on, but there was some where I was like, "Oh, I love the development, but
see, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna raise you Chadwick's accent. I'm gonna raise you on the Chadwick accent. How you feel about that?
Chadwick's accent was iconic at this point.
I mean, James, superhero accents, take Chadwick's accent as Black Panther and like all of the Themyscira.
Valid.
Or Wanda in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Well, I hated Ultron. Like we've been over this. Ultron was horrible.
But I mean, like the generic Eastern European accents that Wanda and Peter have.
Fair.
With superhero movies, generic accents are just kind of accepted because when. God damn it! I lost my train of thought. These damn anxiety meds. But
no, that's cool.
You have accents that sound, vaguely Eastern European. You have, in Age of Ultron, you have the accents in Black Panther that sounded vaguely African. In, any of the properties where we've seen the Amazons, you have accents that are vaguely Gal Gadot.
Yeah,
like,
but at the same,
not even a real
right. But at the same time,
heavy Israeli accent, and sometimes accents are just too thick that she really can't work her way around it. also all of the Amazon, like Connie Nielsen has a completely different accent because I'm pretty sure she's Danish.
Yeah, she is.
And so, like, that's why, if we look at these superhero properties, that's why these accents are all so inconsistent, because there's no, like, one thing to look at. It's,
right.
Okay, we have to have this island full of women, to cover the fact that Gal Gadot has a really thick accent, or, we have to have Black Panther and Wakanda sound vaguely African, but, it's just kind of, you can't really pinpoint exactly where on the continent Wakanda would be, so you have to kind of roll things together.
Mm.
Well, like, to be fair to James's point, Chadwick's accent was a little like Arnez J.
Okay,
making fun of
like it took him a minute to get comfortable. Like the latter half of the movie felt more organic versus the beginning or even parts of Civil War where it was like, yo, you're struggling.
But
so
on
it's
that
like,
same hand, like, whereas with Ray Fisher, there were moments where I felt like he could have been a little more like happy or excited for what was happening, but he would just like stone face the camera like, I am Ron Burgundy.
Well, no, and that's funny. But like my thought process behind that was, and what I've criticized Doom Patrol about was, you see a more robotic getting used to his ability Cyborg here. You see someone that's like dealt with loss, dealt with anxiety about losing his mother, the hatred he feels towards his father for the majority of the movie, and yet you see him having to literally make the hardest choices, like, to save the Earth, whereas he probably hates himself. He doesn't understand why the hell he's the way he is. And that's what pissed me so much off about the Whedon cut, was they turned the mother boxes into like this random MacGuffin item that just destroyed things, versus the difference in the explanation that was in the Snyder cut, where it's like, yo, no, they don't give a fuck what it is. They're just going to transform it. They would rather transform living matter rather than destroy it. So that spoke volumes to me, was Ray Fisher wanted to make this performance his own. And I was like, yo, give this man an Oscar or like something. God damn, because it was such a powerful performance. And it's crazy that, and like, while I'm sad that they cut the Whedon reshot Superman scene, because this is where that moment of inspiring Cyborg would have been justified versus what we got in the Whedon cut, because there was no development for Cyborg. If you would have juxtaposed that entire development for Cyborg versus Superman coming in and being hopeful for him over all the pain he's dealt with, especially when he said, I'm not broken and I'm not alone, and have it emphasized by Superman being encouraging to him, would have been nuts. So it's like, I hate that I have to give Whedon credit for something, because that was a really good scene.
Hey, you're talking to a dude who named his daughter Serenity. I don't like giving Whedon any more credit than he's already gotten from my ass.
So it's like, I really want to punch him in the throat, because while you gave me a really good Superman, you literally white manned the shit out of a dude who did nothing wrong by you. Like, Zack and him had this camaraderie and were making an amazing character out of something that Jeff Johns created years ago. And what pisses me off more is Jeff Johns is the one that wanted to put Cyborg in the forefront. So for him to be the one who let Joss Whedon make these changes and shit on Ray Fisher when Jeff Johns was the one that said he agreed with McDuffie and didn't want the Justice League to be so white anymore? What the fuck?
Honestly, though,
like, it raised, like, I wanted to sit Jeff Johns down and be like, what happened to you? Like, did Hollywood get to your head? Like, what happened to make you think that you could just throw everything you did out of the window? You fucking made Cyborg a member of the Justice League. You fucking brought more diversity to the Teen Titans. You brought a new generation into the JSA. You did all these amazing things with the DC Universe. You created Stargirl, and she has her own fucking TV show. And yet, you are shitting on your entire legacy by being racist to one man. What the fuck?
Here's the thing is comic books aren't very good at reflecting that their writers are sexist or racist pieces of shit, depending on what they're writing.
Skyver.
Honestly. Like, and I remember for years, Whedon was like,
Ethan Van Sciver can't be racist because he drew Jessica Cruz's hand.
Like, bro, apparently, I don't know how, I don't know why he got a credit in the fucking Snyder Cut. I don't know how, but like, apparently he was credited in the credits for Snyder Cut. Sciver was, and I want to know why. Like, did he draw something that was inspirational to you? Because he did nothing.
Typically, from what I understand, the etiquette is also that you credit creators whose work that you have used in preparation for the script or that you had the actors read. So it could be something like he got tossed in because he drew something. I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just trying to find an explanation.
No, you're right.
Not only do we have racist piece of shit Ethan Van Sciver, but we also have, like, you know, Louis Simonson. Who, you know, is probably one of the most prodigious Superman writers of, you know, the 1990s, and I love pointing it out to douche bros that their favorite Superman comics were written by a girl.
Right? So it's just like, damn, I love Simonson. Like, she's one of the only people that actually like her and Jurgens have made Superman worth my time.
I know, I cling to 90s Superman too hard.
No, like, you're right, because like, if it weren't, you know, if it weren't for Tomasi and Jurgens and Simonson, I would probably hate Superman.
And if we're taking notes from Snyder, that black suit comes straight out of the 90s. So I'm thinking you're on something.
And, you know, the more I sit here and the more I've thought about it in hindsight, I'm sorry, I'm going to drag you two back into the lady issues again.
Let's go.
But it's something that, you know, as through the course of the conversation that I've been able to kind of piece together. The fact that, you know, I've mentioned that before that, you know, Zack Snyder. No, not Scott, you're fine. Zack Snyder using dead women as man pain. And, you know, it ties back to the nightmare sequence with me. Is that, you know, in that thing we see dead Diana, and that ties directly to Bruce because, you know, Wonder Bat is a very popular ship among, you know, a lot of comic book fans. I actually don't hate it.
It's not horrible.
It's my favorite ship, if I'm being completely honest.
I mean, like, I like a different kind of Wonder Bat primarily, but I'm fine either way. But no, I have always really liked Bruce and Diana. And so, you know, we have that, you know, there's the scene where their hands touch the mouse at the same time. Like, that's clearly the direction that this was headed. So you have Bruce being spurned on by the death of Diana. You have Bruce throwing Harley in Joker's face, and that shuts him up.
Mm-hmm.
And you have I'm going to presume that Iris is dead as well.
Probably.
And not to mention that, like, the whole thing is sparked because of dead Lois. So you have at least, I'm gonna give it 3.5 dead women, because we don't know the situation with Iris.
3.5.
Now,
I mean, probably Martha's dead too, if we're being honest. That makes 4.5.
And I mean, I'm gonna give Cyborg a pass because his mother's death is canonical in the comics.
Yes.
So that's nothing new. So that's not going to be brought into this point that I'm making here.
That's justified man pain.
That is justifiable man pain. But no, it's not something that was added in later. And so the whole thing was sparked by dead Lois, that Superman loses all of his, you know, love of humanity because he couldn't protect Lois. And a friend of mine pointed out that, you know, they repurposed a shot of Man of Steel from Man of Steel. And not only is it it's not even, oh, Lois is ambivalently dead. We see her charred skeleton.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she dies horrifically. And, you know, I'm a huge fan of Lois Lane. I always have been, and I'm sure both James and Travis are very surprised by this revelation.
Yeah,
Laura Vander, not Laura, what's her fucking name? No, Erica Durance is a better Lois Lane.
I'm gonna beat you with a framed portrait of Margot Kidder.
No. Like, okay, for reference, listeners, me and Mary have a dying feud that Amy Adams and Erica Durance compete for the second best Lois Lane, and Erica Durance is a better Lois Lane, and I will die on that hill.
I will forgive the fact that Lois is a redhead. Because Amy Adams typically, and you see this in most of her films. I'm wondering if she has a personal preference for this. She typically doesn't alter her hair.
Nope.
And honestly, if my hair was naturally that exact shade of red, I wouldn't touch it either.
She looks more like fucking Lana Lang from the comics than she does fucking Lois Lane.
And I think, it was just kind of an overarching narrative from the story that it made me really angry. And unfortunately, I am such a deep fan of the comics, and I liked the way that things were improved on, that it didn't hit me until hindsight. And I was talking with this friend, and it was just, she and I were just, she was telling me about her grievances, and like more is dawning on me throughout that conversation that I'm like, God damn it. Like, and I'm a fan of comic books, and I am a woman, and I've been reading comics for oh dear God, over 20 years. Oh God.
Wow.
Oh God, someone help me. I turn 30 next year, so I'm having like a crisis.
I'm in that same boat. I turned 29 this year, and I'm like,
Travis Victoria turns 30 this year.
Oh no.
You're taking the cougar run.
So we're both kind of like rocking back and forth.
We're old now.
But it's just, so I expect, and I am ambivalent to a certain degree of man pain, that, oh no, something happened to Silver St. Cloud or whatever, just a name I threw out there. I haven't thought about her in years.
Wow, that's a really deep cut.
Right, that is just a really weird name to throw out there.
Yeah, that sent me into a deep, dark place that is Gotham, and I don't like it.
But like, so, oh no, something horrible happened to the woman. So I'm used to a certain degree of that. I don't like it, but it's something I've had to force myself to get used to. But seeing it done so openly in the movie, like, it's so upsetting that I would have expected Joss Whedon to do this. That line about Harley, it gave me hives. Victoria and I just kind of looked at each other and made a face, because that's some Jeff Johns bullshit.
It really is. It feels like Jeff. No, like, dude, if you go back, and like Mary and I have talked about this on the record before, if you go back and look at like Infinite Crisis or like Countdown, like Jeff Johns, even though he created one of the most iconic DC women of all time, being Stargirl, he doesn't really know how to write women, and Diana is one of them. So when he just shits the bed on a woman character, it's just like, why?
And it's just, I'm trying really hard not to go off on a tangent, but like, a degree of me, I was really disappointed with that aspect, because it's, we've got to use dead Lois to make Superman evil. We have to use dead Harley to shut up Joker. We have to use, dead Wonder Woman to show that the situation is super hopeless. Like, and, the Amazons, you saw that scene with Hippolyta, you can see that Hippolyta has very clearly given up. And it's just like something about it just genuinely hurt. Because, and I'm not like, oh, I'm triggered. I'm not doing any of that. But it's just that kind of creeping sense of disappointment that kind of crawls up the back of your neck. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And it's just that kind of settled in. And it doesn't hit until later. And it settles in deep. And it's just, wow. This is going to do some actual damage. Because, I mean, if you look at 90s Superman, which in my opinion is the best era of Superman.
Yep.
And Lois is a very competent individual, and any experienced comic book reader will tell you, you don't fuck with that woman.
No, you do not.
No, she will pull a sledgehammer out of nowhere and beat you about the head and shoulders with it. So it's frustrating when she's reduced to just a plot device. I mean, in her very first appearance in Action Comics #1 from 1938, I want you to focus on that year. She, they heightened the fact that Clark had to play the weakling to be Clark Kent. That, Superman was this big, tough figure, but Clark Kent was a pushover weakling cuck. And at one point, he's escorted Lois to some kind of fancy gala because it's 1938. And, some guy's like, hey, I'm going to go dance with her. And this other dude's like, no, I don't think your escort would like that. And he's like, no, I can beat him up. And so he goes stomping over to Lois and says, you're going to dance with me and you're going to like it. And Lois is like, go fuck yourself. And Clark's like, oh no, I have to be the weakling. And he says, Lois, you should just give him what he wants and dance with him. And Lois says, fuck no, and bitch slaps the guy. Like, 1938, Lois Lane bitch slaps the guy who is sexually harassing her.
Mm-hmm.
And Superman, as Clark Kent, is saying, Lois, no, don't. And in a whisper, those speech bubbles with the dashes through them to emphasize their whispering.
Yep.
He says, good for you, Lois. Like, so from her first appearance in 1938, that,
to bring that into perspective, 1938 is the time where people would get fresh and essentially sexually assault women as flirting. So this is a big thing.
And Lois is like, haha, no, fuck you. And, from the radio shows, and I love the Superman radio shows. I'm the kind of bitch that actually, when I worked in the comic book warehouse, and we're talking like 12-hour work days, I would load up a bunch of Superman radio show episodes because there are literally a gajillion of them. And I would listen to them throughout the day. And so, instead of podcast, I was listening to Superman radio shows from 1945 because I'm hopeless like that. And it was when they were doing Superman Reborn, when they combined pre-New 52 and New 52 Superman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm, listening to this radio show and I'm bag and boarding these comics because we would ship them bag and boarded. And I stop and I'm looking at this thing of Superman triumphantly flying and I'm listening to Clan of the Fiery Cross or Order of the Fiery Cross. Superman Smashes the Klan, the comic book. It was adapted. It was adapted from a radio broadcast, I want to say 1946, where Superman saves a Chinese American boy and his family from being attacked by the obvious Ku Klux Klan insert. Ironically, the Klan was so pissed about that series, they tried to sue.
Wow.
Good luck.
So I'm listening to that, and I'm listening, and the Superman show had a very liberal tilt to it. Like, even at the time, you had, veterans issues being talked about a lot. The cereal commercial was kind of like, you need to make sure you don't waste any food because we're shipping food over to help rebuild the countries we just bombed. So, like, it is a very progressive tilt to it. So I'm listening to this and I'm looking at that comic book and I start to cry because I'm a little bitch.
No, you're not.
Because, here I am, 70 some odd years later, that this is still the same character. In the radio shows, Lois has a lot of cool shit to do. Radio Lois don't give a fuck. And the same woman, Joan Alexander, she voiced Lois from the Fleischer cartoons to the radio shows in the 40s to the 50s and then into the 70s. And from everything I have learned, she was a badass woman worthy of the title of Lois Lane. And so to see all of the cool shit that this woman has done in 85 goddamn years to be reduced to a fucking plot point. To see Wonder Woman, who is coming up, on, decades. She premiered the same year that Captain America did. Captain America's about 8 months older than Wonder Woman. To see her just laying there dead. And, at no point in the comic books have they killed Wonder Woman.
Nope.
because that's a potentially dangerous minefield, because then you have the issue of fridging. And to see that Harley Quinn, Wonder Woman, and Lois Lane were all fridged just
kind of fucked up.
Just because man pain. And I was talking to a different friend about it, and he's like, well, Aquaman was dead too. And I'm like, but that, like,
they didn't set anyone off. They didn't do anything. No one like talked about dead Arthur. I mean, Mara did.
Like Mara did, and fuck Amber Heard and her stupid fucking accent in this movie compared to Aquaman. Well, like fuck Amber Heard in general, but we'll fuck her and Johnny Depp. But that's not the point. But like
unpleasant individuals.
Exactly, they did it to each other. I'm like both fandoms can hate me. I don't care. But like fuck her and that stupid accent. Like no one cares about Amber Heard and her stupid looking trident, which I don't understand why that trident was the one they gave her of all the tridents to have. Like she looked stupid and her bitching about I'm going to avenge Arthur. I'm like, no you're not. Shut up. It was so dumb. And then I hated Willem Dafoe in this movie so much. I already didn't like him that much as Volko in the Aquaman movie, but to see him here with longer hair and more obnoxious, I was like, please go away.
Bruh, you know what was a few things that I was like rolling my eyes at? I love this movie in general, but there are two things.
Go for it.
Any fucking time I saw an Amazon on the screen, I heard, I'm like, okay, can they calm down on this? Please.
Watch. There was no like option for captions on HBO Max, but they were just on.
Mm-hmm.
So we're the kind of people that put subtitles on when we watch anything. And the subtitle every single time said ancient lamentation music. And so every time it would pop up, Victoria and I would just look at each other because it just said ancient lamentation music.
And what's funny about that shit was I felt like Zack Snyder was trying to one-up the guitar riff. And honey, and I'm sorry, Zach, you can't one-up the guitar riff. You already created a monumental moment for a character. Why are you trying to reinvent the wheel here? Just let it ride. You don't have to reinvent it. Just let it ride.
It was that, and then the fact that there was more slow-mo in this movie than the entirety of the Matrix trilogy, that had me fucked up. Victoria
looked at me and said, that's why it's 4 hours long. We got to make room for all the goddamn slow-mo.
Oh, but it was such good slow-mo.
It was real hit and miss slow-mo. They had some great shit, and then other shit was like, this didn't need that.
I will say this is a small as fuck Easter egg. Also, before I say my Easter egg, for the sake of Ian, bravo Ryan Choi, because that man got some fucking work.
I fucking loved seeing Ryan.
Like he fucking put in work in this movie, and I was like yes, bravo Ryan Choi. Ian deserves his credit for that. Amen. But my favorite Easter egg, and it was so like catch it if you didn't get it, it's fine. But Mary, what did Gordon call the black cop?
Crispin.
Crispin. He called him Crispin. Like Travis, do you know who Crispin is?
No.
Gotham Central.
But also he was the first Spectre. Black Spectre. He was the first black person to be the Spectre.
Shit. The dude that woke up at the end of Infinite Crisis?
Yes.
Oh shit. Okay.
So
Travis, I never pass up an opportunity to do this, Travis. If you have never read Gotham Central, you need to.
Yes.
It's Greg Rucka and Ed Brubaker. It's from about the early 2000s. But they deal with a lot. Like, it looks at the sheer corruption that is running rampant in the GCPD. They juxtapose it next to Batman and how he kind of interacts with some of these detectives. And it shows, the absolute cesspit that Gotham can be. I mean, it is Brubaker and Rucka at their finest.
They didn't have to do that, but it was so like catch it and you'll miss it. But the fact that you gave a name to this black person who was here for 5 minutes and you made him one of my favorite characters from the 2000s, and it was just like, thank you. You like just thank you so much. You didn't have to do that, but thank you for doing it. And it meant so much to me.
Because I made a noise when that happened, and Victoria looked at me. I just went, Gotham Central.
Like literally, fucking Gordon looks at him because I compared the two scenes again, like on the Blu-ray, and dude doesn't even get a name. He's just there in that scene in the Whedon cut, but they just reinserted Crispus's name, and I'm like, yes, thank you. Thank you for putting Crispus Allen back where he belongs, because he needs to be here. Because what happens is, and what's funny is, in Infinite Crisis, they brought Jim Corrigan, the original Spectre, back from the dead, hence why the Spectre's running amok in the event, and Jim Corrigan literally kills this man.
Mm-hmm.
And then he becomes the Spectre. And it's so fucking cool the way they do it. So, like, it's such a cool, like, weird passing of the torch that it's just like, yes, do it. I love this.
It's justification for Alan's murder.
Mm-hmm.
One little thing that I was a really big fan of is towards the end when they have the Apocalypse roster and the GAL through the boom tube, and it's basically the JL.
Granny fucking goodness.
Granny fucking goodness, Desaad.
Granny was so skinny. I was like, Granny, what kind of fitness plan are you on? What happened?
She beat bitches' asses morning, noon, and night.
Like, I'm so used to Granny Goodness being this like thick, deep-voiced woman for so long that you gave me
I forgot there was Ed Asner that voiced Granny Goodness.
Yes! Ed Asner voiced the Granny Goodness for so long, and it was so fucking weird.
You don't expect like this weird like cross between like Madame Gasket from Robots and like Ursula from The Little Mermaid when you think of Granny Goodness.
Well, no, because freaking Travis, I'm so used to him being Ed from like the older Ed from Boondocks. I'm so used to Ed Asner being that. So when I found out as a kid that he was Granny Goodness, I'm like, yo, what the fuck? So to see Granny Goodness be this like buff looking chick CGI next to Darkseid, I'm like, where's that movie? Can we have that movie, please?
I need to sidebar for a minute. A few weeks ago, Regina King hosted SNL. And there are a couple of skits where she alters her voice, and I swear to God, all I heard was Riley.
Well, yeah, that'll happen to you.
I heard was Riley. I just want to talk about one tiny little historical thing that made me angry just because I'm a know-it-all.
Go for it.
Okay, it's the scene in Under the Temple of the Amazons where Wonder Woman drops down and she's wearing goddamn heels. Like, first of all, no heel is that. I don't wear heels. Like, and no heel is that strong. I have tripped over enough of Victoria's to know. And it's just, I don't know. She's wearing a white coat and heels. I know she came from work, but really, girl, really?
I mean, like, you gotta imagine her calves have to be fucking like perfect for her to do that kind of shit.
Well, I mean, have you seen her?
That's fair.
Haha, horny on main. But she goes into the she goes into that little space under the Temple of the Amazons, and she sees, the big portrait of Darkseid. And it looks to, now I don't read Greek, but I am obsessed with the Bronze Age, which, the Bronze Age collapse happened around the 1100s BCE. So we have no written records from the Greek Dark Ages from about 1000 BC to about 700 BC, because 700 BC is when classical Greece got started. And it was during the Greek Dark Ages that the basically Phoenician alphabet became the Greek alphabet. And so when she's looking at this mural, it's the classical Greeks, Greek, Phoenician, Greek alphabet. And depending upon how old this temple is, that means the temple would have had to have been constructed after 700 BC. If it was constructed during the Dark Ages, okay, maybe. But if Darkseid invaded 5,000 years ago, it wouldn't even be in Linear B, which is the inscriptions that the Mycenaean Greeks used. Because, the Iliad and the Odyssey is set during Mycenaean Greece. It's the ancient Greece of ancient Greece. It's Bronze Age Greece. That made me angry because I'm a know-it-all. because I made like huffy noises and I paused and I talked to Victoria and she just kind of went dead behind the eyes. So anyway, I wanted to say that I'm chatty, I'm a know-it-all, and now everyone can fast forward through this section.
You're valid. So, Mary, Travis, we've talked a lot about how we have hated parts of what was changed about this movie. We talked about how we love the fixings that and the respect that was restored to Ray Fisher. What are some like genuinely good shit we enjoyed about the Snyder Cut?
Bruce Wayne being Bruce Wayne and not some weird fucking obsessed with a dead guy type of motherfucker in this whole movie. Like, oh god, it was nice seeing Bruce just, I don't know, be more so Bruce. The interactions with him and Alfred were just that good.
Snarky
Like Jeremy,
best Alfred.
oh yeah,
Yes.
and Jeremy Irons delivers my favorite version of Alfred in droves. In droves.
Yes.
And
it's comparable to 2003 The Batman, where like that Alfred was just snarky as fuck constantly.
Yes, and anytime Bruce would fuck up, it's like, oh well, who would have thought that would happen? Because Alfred most definitely said something hours before anything went wrong. And so I don't know, man. Like it was kind of to call back to what Mary said earlier in the Whedon cut. Bruce felt like he was just obsessed with reviving Clark, and only that. Like
It was
almost as if Clark was like a bat gadget.
It was actually kind of gay.
It was. And then like you have Diana coming in like rubbing Bruce's like shoulders after the fight in the sewer, like, don't worry, you don't have to be gay, I'll love you. And then like he's so obsessed with being gay that he fucking like they have to feud about it. And then she shows up on the rooftop like, thanks for coming. He's like, I only came for him. I don't care if you're gay. And it's like, bro.
Oh my god.
And I gotta say, like, I love Aquaman in both versions, but like I think, and one of my other favorite lines that Whedon put into the movie that Snyder took out was the scene on the car with Aquaman and Bruce, where Aquaman's like, "Bro, you're out of your fucking mind," and like, and he goes, "At least I'm not here with a pitchfork," and he just launches himself off the car. Granted, he still launches himself off the car, and the line that he has with Cyborg, where he's like, "My man," like that's still there. That was Snyder, which I'm happy about. I'm so glad they don't have to like come in and like have witty dialogue about coming to rescue Bruce, because like there's that Ray Fisher ADR line where he's flying, he's like, "Hey, blame the lady, we didn't want to come back for you." I'm like, did we need to hear that? Did you need to put that in there? Like that, like the entire fight in general is so glorious because Aquaman proves that just because he's a water-based hero doesn't mean he can't kill a bitch, because he like is flying through the air like a fucking crazy person, stabbing shit.
When you said Aquaman is a water-based hero, that made me think of something. The Atlantis scene, where Mira rips the water and the blood out of Steppenwolf's face.
So cool.
Like, I don't think a lot of people fully understand, and James, I think you could commiserate with this, and someone spiritually summon Ian, that I don't think a lot of people understand just how deadly she is.
She can literally fucking kill you. She can pull all of the water out of your body with a thought. Like there's this really cool scene in the Abnett run of Aquaman where she is the only one that has the ability to break this like Atlantean magic, like Trump level wall that's around Atlantis. And like she literally damages her body trying to break through it. And she does, and she loses her ability to breathe water from it, and has to literally like be regenerated and fixed by the Atlantean magics. Like she powers through this shield to go save her husband, and it's one of the most badass things she ever does. And it's like, yo, this woman is fucking glorious. So when she rips the shit out of Steppenwolf, I'm like, yes. Fucking yes, yeah.
There's a 2-issue section in Rebirth, because it's after Arthur has disappeared, and she's all just kind of like, dude, why the fuck aren't you looking for him? And they're like, wait, what? And she's like, fuck you guys. And she takes down the entire Justice League single-handedly because they made the mistake of trying to fight a bitch in water. Like, she is actually so quick at ripping the water out of people that she dehydrates the Flash.
Yep.
And he's like, you realize I can run on water? And she's like, good luck trying to do that when you're fucking dehydrated. Like, and I hate to give Jeff Johns any credit, but in the early issues of the New 52, there is a really cool scene where she does that.
Yep.
Where there's a store clerk and he sexually... I don't know if it was... No, she breaks the store clerk's arm, and then it's actually a hostage situation where guy's going to kill his daughter, and she's like, here's 1 day without water, 2 days, 3 days, oh, I'm going to kill you. So it was really nice to see that deadliness reflected. I mean, in Abnett's early Rebirth run, she knocks the shit out of Superman.
She does.
Like, she just, she's able to get the drop on him, and she clocks him. And he goes flying. Like, so it's a good hit.
That's why, like, people, like, don't, like, need to keep acting as if, like, yeah, we hate Amber Heard, but, like, Mara is a fucking amazing character.
I mean, in terms of the films, I'm just going to look at the character in isolation. The Depp Heard thing, it is a fucked situation, and in my opinion, I think they're both just garbage people.
Agreed.
Like, that's all I'm gonna say about it, is that they seem like genuinely unpleasant individuals. One shouldn't have done either thing to the other.
But in terms of the movies, like, thankfully, I will say this. As awesome as the Atlantean scenes are, I love the fact that, like, there's so much more context in those scenes, because there's this, like the part on land was so fucking cool.
Aquaman made so much more sense. It is a very clear, even just that, I'm gonna be generous and say 10 to 15 minutes of Atlantean stuff compiled. It is such a clear setup for Aquaman. The Victoria, Victoria and I looked at each other and she said, Aquaman makes so much more sense now. She's like, she said, because Aquaman takes place after Justice League. And she said that is far more clear now, because Mira just kind of pops up and she's like, hey, you got to go do something. And because Mira and Volko are setting Arthur up to handle Steppenwolf so they can depose Orm. Like, and I love how Orm's just not gonna do anything.
Yeah, he's like, he gets like, he doesn't care about Steppenwolf, but the minute you pollute his oceans, I'm pissed. Like, you fuck with my oceans, we have war.
What annoyed me is that Snyder poked at the Flashpoint war between the Atlanteans and the Amazons. I found that to be wholly unnecessary.
Yeah, he did. And
there's a lot of things I want to see Diana and Mira do, and Diana beheading her is certainly not one of them.
No. There's that scene where, like, they
Travis knew what I was getting at.
I chose to slide past it because horny on Maine. We've already done enough of that tonight. But there's there will be more. Oh, trust me, after reading Bombshells like you've been making me doing, I understand why you want Mara and Diana to do things. But anyway,
Bombshells
this is for Mary. This is for Mary.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, jeez.
I love you, Travis.
But so there's that scene they added back in that gives so much more context for Aquaman, where fucking Willem Dafoe's like, take your mother's trident, and I'm like, really? That's the best you got with like a cry of pain? Is to, like it was just, it was so great, and I'm so thankful they cut that man's hair and gave him a more like suitable outfit in the Aquaman movie, because he looked like he was about to roll over and die in the Snyder cut. Like I like Aquaman movie Willem Dafoe more than Snyder cut Willem Dafoe. That's just all I got for that. As the number one Aquaman fan here, I feel as if he was done so much more of a service in this movie by just those couple scenes, and him just flying in to save Mara felt so much more earned here. Because Mara wasn't just a random woman in distress. She fucking fought for her life. Versus Arthur showing up and just backhanding the shit out of Steppenwolf. And him getting to be the one that just stabs the shit out of Steppenwolf at the end, and then Diana cleaves him, was such a really cool dynamic, especially when him and Diana are fighting Steppenwolf while Victor is upstairs. That fight is so much better here compared to the Whedon version. It's so much better. So
and
in
the Whedon version, he like, if you were to judge Momoa's like talent based on the Whedon cut, you would get that he's just wave breaks, slow motion, chugging a beer in his looks. Whedon didn't give that man any opportunity to shine except for being like a petulant, rebellious fuckwad. You know what I'm saying?
A line I really liked, it was after Victor Stone's death. And I think he's talking to Flash. But Arthur looks over, I think it's Flash, he said, "Is Victor okay?" And he's like, "I thought you didn't care." And Aquaman just, he says, "I never said that." Like, and the fact that, Arthur has such a close, very loving relationship with his father, that losing his father is his biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
And how do you not have compassion for the man whose father just sacrificed himself? That is one hell of a death scene.
Bro, it was so like... and what's so sad is because I accepted what Whedon did and even enjoyed at the end of the Whedon cut, like Cyborg's armor transforming into more of the Rebirth style and Silas staying alive. But just to give such a more like hyper fixation on Cyborg here and to have Silas go out in such a cool way to justify like him being there for Victor one last time, which is
because
Snyder, I love you for that.
See, I am like, we all have our favorite tropes, and sacrificial deaths are some of mine.
Same.
And so, sorry, burped. So, like, that scene was, because I couldn't figure out what he was doing at first. I'm like, no, the door's not closed yet, just scoochalooo out the door. And then when they point out that he marked the box, I'm like, holy shit. I mean, if you think about the scene, he was dead anyway. Like, as soon as Steppenwolf, he was dead anyway. It was just a matter of, did he go out on his own terms, or did Steppenwolf axe him to death?
Mm-hmm.
But... no, like, that was so cool. And something that I think doesn't get talked about enough is Ray Fisher. He has a history of stage acting. Yep. And I worked with professional theaters, community theaters. I was a stage manager. So I have a big affinity for stage acting. And that's what Ray Fisher's background is primarily in. And there's a certain degree of, you only get one shot when you're on stage. And it has to be a certain emotional range that you need to be able to pull up on command. I don't know if any of this is making any sense.
No, it does.
No, it makes sense.
But Ray Fisher's range is phenomenal.
Yep.
And he emotes very clearly because that's a stage thing again. Like, you have to be able to see, and the way his body language is, it's very clearly a stage acting. Yep. You see this with actors like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart. They're celebrated stage actors. And so just every movement that Ray Fisher makes is carefully calculated, and his range is incredible. Because when Silas is in the chamber and he is being superheated and disintegrated, the pain on his face is incredible. And I appreciate that, we got justice for Ray Fisher with this cut, but I think we also need to talk about the immense talent behind the man.
Yep.
And I'm like, I want to take a baseball bat and be like, someone give him a fucking job. Like,
pretty much, yeah. Like, after this movie, he needs more work. He like Hamada needs to swallow his fucking pride, or somebody at a different studio needs to give him a chance. Because this movie proves that Ray Fisher has the cojones to pull off his own solo project.
And I want, because it has been essentially confirmed that Cyborg has been removed from the Flash.
Ugh.
And I want to pop up, because Christina Hodson, who wrote Birds of Prey, is also writing Flash. Now, I don't think Christina Hodson would just remove Cyborg for script reasons. No. No. That decision came from upstairs, and it is very obvious that decision came from upstairs. I just kind of want to pop up behind her and go, can we, like, you walk away for 5 minutes and I'll fix this. Like,
Yeah. All right, folks. So that is our collective thoughts on the Snyder Cut. There was a lot of fucking good. There was a little we didn't like, but it was very minute. A lot of stuff we didn't hit on, but in terms of like a show, I think we did really well. We got over our point across. Fuck Joss Whedon. Yeah, that's consensus, right? Right, consensus.
Yeah. Fuck Joss Whedon.
Okay,
well,
so
he can fuck off and die, in my opinion.
Yeah, so like I feel like we're in agreement.
Thank God he didn't get to do his Batgirl movie.
Oh God. Jesus Christ, nightmares.
I just remembered that he was gonna do a Batgirl movie and he was gonna adapt Simone's New 52 run.
Oh God.
Which means Alicia Yeoh would have been at his disposal. My God, what would he have done with a trans woman of color?
Oh.
Terrible things that we don't want to talk about.
No.
Excuse me as I rock back and forth.
So thankfully, Snyder was given the opportunity to show his true vision. It's one of his best pictures, in my opinion. This thing stands as a touchstone of what happens when you give a creator full control. Didn't get to say it because obviously we're way over time, but Darkseid was pretty fucking cool.
Oh yeah, no, Darkseid was very well done.
Yes, Zeus was sexy. Gotta make that clear one more time.
I thought we weren't going to be horny anymore, James.
Especially over niggas like Zeus.
Hey man, I said Ares was hot too. Like, it's okay.
Ares ain't turning into swans and raping people.
Fuck. But anyway, folks, thank you for watching, listening to this episode of Panel to Panel. Don't forget that you can follow us on Twitter at PTP_podcast. Follow the website on Twitter and Instagram at OnComicsGround. Check out the website on comics-ground.com for all of our amazing reviews, interviews, solicitations, all that great stuff, opinion pieces. And we will, don't forget that this Wednesday we'll be having a double episode like this week, where I will be interviewing Tate Bromwell talking about the wrap-up of Barbalian Red Planet, so get ready for that. And we will be back next week, again, because we are trying to get back on the normal schedule. You will get to see an amazing episode where Kat Calamia is coming back and hanging out with Mary to talk about Runaways. So get ready for that amazing show. Travis, what is your closing statement for episode number 52, ironically enough, Panel to Panel?
Run Ray Fisher his fucking money.
Yes. Mary, what is your closing statement for this episode of Panel to Panel?
Ray Fisher was right.
I'm think going to make that the title of the episode at this point, because goddamn.
Someone needs to lock Ray Fisher, Jeff Johns, John Berg, and Joss Whedon in a room and just give Ray Fisher a baseball bat, and what's going to happen is going to happen. You know? That and Zack Snyder, we need to talk about women.
Yep.
So,
all right. My closing statement, as always, is support your local comic book shop. Hashtag Ray Fisher was right. I am making the title of this episode. I don't give a fuck.
Good.
And
I just dropped in the chat the Batman Ray Fisher needs.
Yes.
God damn it. And we will be back next week. Thank you, folks, for being here and helping us support like the amazing show that we have come to create over the past 2 years. We will catch you folks next time right here at Panel to Panel. Peace out.